here with Jackson against Saint. Jackson is the last undefeated person in A. They've been teasing us, Heather, about being Canadian, but I want to point out in the NWL division right now, the top three players, Jackson at 6-0, and then Josh Sokol and Max Panich at 5-1, all three of them Canadian.
Representing.
Very fitting on today of all days, Canada Day or Dominion Day, as Craig taught me. So a great day for Canada and thus the world. So the blank comes out early for Saint.
That's always exciting.
It is, except he's not Canadian, so it's not that exciting. But no, we just want to see good Scrabble.
Exactly.
Does he have a bingo? I don't see one yet. PORRLT blank. Some players don't really move their tiles much. I think Saint definitely shuffles a lot more. You can see Jackson now alphabetizing his tiles. He doesn't always do that, but he definitely does sometimes. Okay, that's a weird sort of letter pattern, but it's a word we know. Rotl, R-O-T-L. Looks reasonable. Keeps PR blank, which is very likely to bingo going forward.
Oh, that was me. I'm sorry. I forgot to put the dog bag, refill the dog bag, and my partner's taking our dog out for walks.
Their dog, of course, being Handsome Herbie, as I call him. I'm always appreciative of Herbie because when I had COVID, he took care of me. I was dog sitting, and he was the perfect nursemaid. So everyone say hello to Handsome Herbie, who unfortunately has not appeared on the stream yet.
I'm sorry. Maybe we'll convince him to come and say hello at some point.
Well, Heather will be back with us on Monday morning, so maybe then, if Herbie doesn't have plans, he is very popular. Saint is really jittery there at the table. That's just, I think, sort of standard nerves at the table. It happens. Jackson has that big Z tile. He's going to play it. What is he going to do with it? Plaza, maybe?
That looks good.
Yeah. And Quackle agrees. They have Plaza as the highest scoring play. The second best play, according to Quackle, was a slur. We don't have to mention that one. So Saint now did not draw. I was saying how PR blank is pretty bingo prone, but not when you draw the Q.
Oh, that's a Q. I thought it was an O for the longest time. Okay.
An O would have helped him. A Q is terrible here. Looks like he has peg set up, which could either be played above Rotl or through the A to form Peeg. Peeg has a nice benefit in that it takes a back E for P-E-A-G-E, which he would be holding an E, but it would also give Jackson the chance at that same lane. So I think he might just exchange GQ. You know, he's looking pretty GQ wearing a suit to this event. But maybe he's thinking there can only be one GQ at this table and it can't be on his rack. It's got to be over his shoulders.
I was going to ask, that he didn't sort of immediately go to exchange the Q or have that place queued up at the beginning. And he's still contemplating it, but keeping the Q, is that still a long play? Good decision to score a bit here, and
it's tough here because Peg scores decently, right? Like, I think I would probably exchange because getting rid of GQ and you have PEER blank and like it's just you're gonna bingo like 80-90% of the time maybe. Whereas after Peg you could get in more trouble. It might be a couple turns, but if you play something like Peg or Peeg, you're scoring about 15, and that has benefits too because if you draw right with the Q RE blank, you draw a U or something, and then all of a sudden you're really glad you took those 15 points. So Quackle does
Hmm.
like the exchange of GQ slightly more than the exchange of GEQ. And then P, it says, is the third best play, which has now jumped over the exchange EGQ. It's very close, but throwing back
Okay.
GQ, as he was considering, does seem to be at least the computer's top choice.
Now it looks like he's considering other exchanges beyond GQ.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw back the P. The P, yeah, and now it looks like he's going to keep the P. The thing is, you don't want to get in trouble. If the more tiles you throw back, the more likely you are to get in trouble. By that I mean drawing like other unwieldy tiles, like the J or something, or like duplicates. So, oh, now he's looking at keeping the G. I don't love that. The G is not exactly a great bingo tile. When you have IN, it can be, but otherwise, it's not great. Uh, okay, he's going to play through it
Wow.
with Parge. Okay, that takes in back hooks also. Um, I kind of don't mind that if you're going to play through.
Yeah, I'm
The thing
curious
about
what the
P,
chat people feel about that play.
yeah, I'd love to hear what the chat thinks. If you're going to play through, you're drawing one more tile to go for a U, and he's close to stuff like queer through that E or queen or something if he draws the right tiles. But he's drawn OCD I. So the I at least will help him get rid of that Q. So it's not the worst necessary job, although he's grabbing his head. Some players can hide their emotions better than others. Saint is very demonstrative. Uh, Jackson uh, likes that G coming down because he can play version. Playing it very quickly. I think he's feeling that Saint is getting a bit frustrated, is using a lot of clock. Jackson maybe wants to play pretty quickly. He didn't really take a lot of time on that turn, but it's clearly the best play, especially now that I look at the Quackle simulation. So good job by Jackson, knowing that was the best play and getting it down efficiently.
Oh, I didn't notice before the little sort of mini bios that were provided for the players underneath. I think before they were just where they came from, but it says here Jackson is a prolific tree planter
Yeah,
and Saint is
um,
a former bass singer. That's
I didn't
interesting
know that. Or maybe
bit
he's a
of
bass singer. Maybe
biography.
he sings with fish. Um, it's possible.
It's true.
Jackson was a
It
tree
could be
planter.
either.
Over 400,000 trees, according to Sean.
Well, that is
I know
prolific.
over 2 straight summers. I say over. During 2 straight summers, he went up north, and we've been complaining about the smoke in Toronto recently. But I know when he was up there, they had forest fires nearby, and he said people would find it very hard to breathe while working. It's definitely a tough job. You make a lot of money, and he was able to just work in the summer and sort of stretch that money pretty long term. So it worked out really well for him. But I think he's since moved on. He now has gotten himself sort of a real job, which is showing our little Jackson is growing up here. And he'll be very happy to see he's got bingos here. So um, Unsteal is the one I see, but doesn't that one have an anagram? I'm almost positive it does.
Yeah, it looks like they're
Eluent.
both.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both going to bingo, I think. And it'll be interesting to see if this bingo gives back a triple triple. The L in the lane there
Hmm.
um, with Saints Rack looks at least promising. So at the very least, he'll get some bingo down. But now he's like excited. He's not even writing down the
Hmm.
score. I don't think for Jackson's turn. He's just like, an L came down. I gotta find this. Okay, the score is being written down. That is a rule. You do have to write the opponent's score, no matter how tempting it is, just to just to want to look right away. So does anyone see a triple triple? And if not, what is the best bingo? So Matt brings up an interesting point. Unsteal could have been played turning parge to, I think it's pronounced parge, making it the T the hook. So that would have stopped the triple triple, especially if you think Saint is getting close. And I think Jackson sort of had a read on Saint being close, just on how much he seemed to be shuffling and how it felt like he was getting close. But the danger of that play, of course, is where the U would be slotted. It could give back a really big play. So I think both of them are pretty close. The L isn't the most dangerous position tile there, but it's also not the least dangerous. So I'm actually not sure which one I prefer. And Billy has found the best bingo, at least the highest scoring one, by 5 points over Coveted. That would be Cess Toad. That plays forming PE. There's an anagram of that word of escoted that also would play, but beneath or above Roddle. And then maybe if these words are sounding a bit strange, I mean, coveted is a common word. Escorted would be a common word. So even if like you're watching this and thinking, I don't know these words, with that rack, you should still be able to, if you really work at it, be able to find a bingo. What you want to do is find common prefixes or suffixes. In this case, that ed ending, maybe extend it to TED, and then it's just unscrambling 4 tiles to find coveted. And Saint has done that. Mimosa's noticing Jackson's shaky leg. He definitely shakes a lot during Scrabble games, although outside of Scrabble, he's really relaxed. So I think I know what Jackson's next play is going to be. It's a bit of a uncommon word, but it'll clean up his rack really nicely. Of oboli, Oboli.
I like that.
Yeah, I think he has to play that. And there it comes. Cleans off 3 vowels of his 6 vowel rack. Timing is everything in this game. You have 6 vowels in your rack. If that spot goes away, if Saint had played there, Jackson would have had very little to work with. Saint has drawn some big tiles here. The J, the Y, the B, and let's get an update on the score if we can. It looks like our Quackle went down. Maybe Noah's working on it. Without knowing the exact score, it's a bit hard to decide what he should be playing. And people are commenting how Saint's been struggling a bit playing on stream. It's definitely way harder than just playing at any other table. Hats off to him for taking on the challenge. I know how much he loves this game. It's good practice, if nothing else. He did find coveted, so he's definitely still fighting very hard in this game. But with Jackson having drawn into a bingo, it's going to be difficult. If Tuxedos fits, it does at least above RE and OD for sod and ear. Tuxedos,
And
I
above
assume.
fully.
Can you spell it with an OES ending? I think so. I'll check. Yeah, you can. So I think Jackson will be aggressive and play it through the E, I would think. Not all those words ending in O can be pluralized with ES, but that one just looked reasonable to me. I wouldn't have had a problem pulling the trigger. I think Jackson will feel confident. I guess now, if he is confident it can be spelled that way, he can play it in two spots, right? He could play it uh, sort of higher up or lower down. Where would you play tuxedos through the E of coveted?
Outsexed has been pointed out as a another bingo through that E.
That's true. Um, is is that a word? I
I'm guessing nobody
no,
has
I don't think that's a word.
declined it.
I
Oh,
think they're just having fun.
just
Poor Saint only wore a suit. I think he had to up his game to a tuxedo if he wanted any chance in
okay.
this one.
Outsexed, no good.
Oh, and Jays for Canada Day. Matt, he's a Texan, but still is a fan of our beloved Toronto Blue Jays. So love to see that shout out. The Jays are Canada's team. They get the highest TV audience in baseball, surprisingly, because we've got a whole country following us. Love to see it. The Jays are having a very nice year. Very deep team.
I think
Looks like
is Jackson on hold? Would be on hold or?
I think so. It looked like
Oh,
he was saying something to him. It looks like he's probably thinking about it. This really it makes the deficit 93 points for him.
yeah.
So if he's not sure about the spelling, he has to really consider challenging. But um, it just looks pretty good. So I think it would be a tough challenge. Hopefully, for his sake, he does not challenge.
I think they've moved on.
Yeah, saving. Oh, that's a nice
Okay.
play. Uh, Very nice board vision there from Saint. He also could have
Hmm.
played just Vig or Viga, sort of leaving that S alone to allow him maybe to open the board down from that spot later on, but that's okay. This play makes equally as much sense to me. Maybe he can draw the other blank. And yes, Wes, tuxedoed isn't stupid. Most clothing words take ed as an adjectival form. So the tuxedoed man, for example, uh, is why that sort of word comes in. I remember playing ponchoed. Uh,
Mm. Yeah, I believe I played kimonoed
oh,
once
beautiful.
on spec, but yes, it turned out to be okay.
Um, and then we are on to Jackson's turn. Um, AEFIIMO, not exactly a good rack. He's ahead by 61. So a lot of this board is pretty shut. I could see him trying to obscure things, maybe something above the O of coveted or through it. Um, the big bingo lane, of course, is next to the P of plaza, but it would be maybe a bit harder to block that. Maybe moi, MOI there. If you play anything longer, then it starts to open up uh, bingos that can go through it, like eights.
It's not great for leave, but I'm looking at move, parallel down tuxedo. I guess it gives an E back hook to, so it's
Uh,
not very defensive.
You want to play, move through there. Okay. Yeah, it does set up Amu and Emu sort of hooks
Hmm.
back. Um, yeah, it's difficult here because I think maybe that moi play is what I'm thinking with PI. The CO floaters are definitely the best bingo floaters. but I'm not seeing a good way to address it without also giving a lot back. Move is good because it scores nicely. It really keeps the scoring pressure on Saint, really builds up his lead. The C and the B don't allow horizontal plays, which is how you would normally block a spot like that. Does anyone see another idea that Jackson could do on the left side of the board here that might address things? Jerry Lerman, hi Jerry, says aim under pin. That would be aggressive. It would definitely clean up his vowels nicely. I think with his lead, I don't think he wants to put out an S hook that he's never going to be able to address unless he gets it. Just long term, that lane is going to stay there, and that could be very difficult to address later in the game for him. So he's going to play dime. It doesn't really address any of the bingo lanes, but it cleans off some of his rack. So seems reasonable enough. Saint will waste no time to play buoy. That's a nice play. There are certain words in Scrabble, when you have them, they're almost always the right play. If you have a letter combination like B-U-O-Y, you just want to get it off your rack. They're not nice tiles, but in that specific word, they go together. So nice play by Saint there. It does partially obscure the lanes that Jackson was so kind not to block, but it's still a play he seemed to probably have to make. Neither player has found that second blank yet. We're going to keep an eye on that. That's going to be big here. Yeah, Jackson has OBS set up on his rack, OBEAH. Wes found it in the chat and definitely looks like the right play to me. Jackson's okay to just keep scoring here. He can keep some lanes open. I guess the problem is then he slots an H into the triple lane there that's going to be open long term. So yeah, Ahi across seems like a better idea. You don't want to start opening lanes that you're going to have to address later, because even if it's only one lane, the opponent can start opening more lanes. And then an H lane starting a bingo allows bingos to score about 80 points. And if Saint wants to come back in this game, he needs big bingos. So I think that's a really clever idea by Jackson. Saint wastes no time. He plays Bach. He didn't see the word of Haniwa that Cesar spotted in the chat. That's a tough one. That would have played next to the T of Tuxedo, got all the way to the top. Opening the board there definitely could have been advised. The K in the first position isn't nearly as powerful as the H would be. It just doesn't start nearly as many words. The K is a lot clunkier. But great draw by Saint. There are bingos there. Jackson plays quickly. This is fast action, Heather.
Yeah.
We don't even have time to decide if these are the right moves. They've been looking at their tiles on the opponent's clock. By the time we look over, they've already made their move. So yeah, Tahina's is there. Shaitan, I think, is better. I don't know if he doesn't know the word or if he doesn't see it. I guess it would have slotted the S in the triple lane, which is more dangerous, but it would have been a couple more points. Maybe this is just as good. Hard to say. Either way, he gets a bingo down. This is just a different pronunciation or spelling of tahini, a nice Middle Eastern food. It's one of the ingredients in hummus, typically. Hi, Shelley. I'm Jared Capel. I'm here with Heather McCall. We will be with you through this game, and then it's lunchtime. After lunch, the very talented streaming team of Jesse Day and Austin Shin will be leading you guys through 4 games with the International Dictionary. So yeah, we got each player has about 12 minutes left on their clock here. And after that bingo, Saint takes a small lead. So it felt like Jackson was in control of this game for quite a while, didn't it? And all of
It
a
did very
sudden,
much
Saints
so.
19. Um, I almost don't know how that happened. I know that, he got his bingo down, but it really felt like Jackson had good command. But it shows you Saint is a fighter and a very talented player. And that second blank we were keeping an eye on, well, look where it showed up. Right
Indeed, I
on his
think
rack.
Jackson's been giving up just a few points here and there
Yeah.
on his more defensive plays, and we're seeing the impact of that.
Yeah, like the dime play. Maybe he should have looked for some way to block one of the lanes. The capo play almost also didn't score very much. So sometimes you have to be a bit more aggressive with blocking. Here he's going more offensive again now that the score is different. Leaving RN looks really good, but I see a type of pasta that Saint could play through the eye. I'm sure there's other things. Uh, I'm sure people in the chat will be quick to tell us what some of these options are. Cesar's trying to rhyme my name a way it doesn't spell. Capel rhymes with lapel, not apple, but that's okay. You can call me Capel if you want. I won't be offended. Oh, Glue Wayne. Wow. Cy Adam coming down with a massive, massive find. That's an obscure word. Saints playing a bit quickly here. Look where that eye slotted, Heather. That gives a lot back. I'd like to see him pull this back and take some time. He might not know Gluane. He might not find it. Maybe he'll see this play of Linguini I was hinting to with my pasta comment, which gives a lot less back. I don't think he has 12 minutes here. I think he's playing a bit quickly. Um, Interestingly, Quackle likes Linguini better than Gluane, even though that latter play scores 4 more. I think just because look what Linguini does to the board. It's not really
Mm.
leaving anything except for maybe a bingo starting with an E beneath the R falter, down from the F, which doesn't even actually fit, sorry, or across from the K. Alan, CSW will be in the afternoon. This is the last of the NWL games for today. So he plays eluding, and even if it's not the best bingo, it's still a very powerful bingo on this board, and Jackson is in trouble. He has fronted, of course, on his rack, but I don't see a place to play it. Do we know if he played eludine or elutine? You could play that word with a D or a T. So eluding is the word I think most people would be familiar with. That's to, avoid something. Elutine, the T, is to remove with a solvent. So that's not a word that I knew the definition of, but it's very high probability, as we'd say, using a lot of common tiles. So I do know that word, and Saint and Jackson will both know it too. The blank is a D. Okay, thank you to Sean. I'm not sure Cesar on Hanawa versus Bach. I sort of like how Hanawa would blow the board open, which I thought maybe he needed there, but maybe Bach scores so much and Jackson wasn't really blocking as much as he could have, and it allowed him to get a bingo down. So that's an interesting turn. One, I think I would need more time to really think through to give my opinion. What do you guys think in the chat? In the chat, Morris thinks that J's should be extended to DJs, which would be a lot of fun. You could extend it like DEEJs, but that doesn't allow you to hook it and get your bingo down. So we're getting very late in the game. Let me give you a tile update. Oh, sorry, the tiles are gone, of course, because Saint only has 5 in his rack. So this one is looking pretty much over then. Unfortunately for Jackson, his bingo doesn't play. We might see him use all of his 9 minutes here, thinking if I don't find a bingo, I lose. So he's going to look through that I for a long time. There's nothing there. He'll look down to that O of coveted and that C of coveted. Nothing there. Yeah, Morris likes Bach. It does score. It's tough. These small turns, they're very similar, but it scores 39 points Bach and left pretty well, so it seems to make a lot of sense. Jackson won't use all the time. Interesting. He's confident there's no bingo with the I. I would still be using more clock. And yeah, Morris, good point. Long-term defense, Hanawa, even though it opens things up, Jackson makes a 3-letter parallel play vertically beside it. Really kills a lot of the board, so I think it does make a lot of sense to just leave lanes open, especially as Jackson wasn't being that proactive to block them. So I think people are coming to a consensus on Bach being the better play. Adam, I agree, using more clock doesn't always work, but when you know you're going to lose, if you don't find a bingo, you might as well use the clock, I think. Jackson has really strong word knowledge, though. Like, he just knows that there's no bingo there with the I. But I would recommend to most players, you have 9 minutes, at least use 3, 4, 5, just to be sure. If after the game you saw that notified fit or something, you would be really mad at yourself. So yeah, Wes, getting a longer lunch break on these long tournaments. First of all, to have fun with your friends. Second of all, just to get some time to maybe you want to exercise during your lunch break, go for a long walk, maybe pop back to your room. Like there's things people want to do in their lunch break. That sounds like a bit of a joke with your smiley face, but I think it actually holds some merit. I am excited for lunch. I'm excited for Canada Day celebrations tonight. I'm excited to watch more Scrabble coming forward. I'm done for today. I'll be back the next 2 days, and then the tournament will conclude Tuesday morning. Matt will have the call there. I'm not sure who he's doing it with. There is some surprise bonus content during the lunch break, so please, please, please don't go anywhere. I teased to that yesterday. I guess it is happening. Stick around, folks. There's always a show here on letsplayscrabble.com, and if you hit that subscribe button, you will be notified on things like upcoming moments.